Hi, I'm Kelsey of Nested Sleep. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today we're going to be talking about swaddling. We'll go over how to swaddle, when to wean from the swaddle, and all the different swaddles that are out there to help your baby sleep. Then we'll talk about how to transition out of the swaddle and when to do that. So let's dive in. So when to begin using a swaddle? Now some babies, this is the rare case, never really need to be swaddled and don't truly wake a whole lot from the startle reflex. But the majority of babies do have a reaction to their normal Moro reflex, and that is their startle reflex. And so as you're placing a baby down into the crib or bassinet, they may kind of jump, startle a little bit, and potentially wake up. So it can be disruptive to their sleep. Now the Moro reflex, this tends to really diminish and start to decrease in that startle effect by around 12 weeks of age. That can vary somewhat from child to child. But usually in that early newborn stage, especially the first 2 months or so, or the first 8 weeks or so, they can be very sensitive to that, and that can wake them from sleep. And so in that case, a swaddle can be helpful to kind of keep them secure, keep them, their arms kind of closer in to their body. And so when they jump, it's not as much of an intense wake up situation. That's why a swaddle can be helpful for many babies. So the types of swaddles that you're talking about for that are the types of swaddles that you can really secure baby into. Most of the time, the swaddle blankets that you're gonna kind of snug and wrap up a baby can be helpful for during the day when you can more closely watch the baby. But at night, they could be more likely to kind of pull that swaddle up over their head, and it can be an unsafe sleep situation. So these ones that have the Velcro can secure nicely, can be really helpful. If babies tend to be, even in the Velcro situation, ones that will kind of get their arms out and it does tend to wake them from sleep, then there are some other swaddles like the Love to Dream swaddle that has baby almost in little wings, that their arms can be a little higher up versus closer to their body. Both will prevent that startle reflex or that Moro reflex from really actively waking your baby up. So that's something you're going to want to try to use, especially during that newborn time period. And it would be okay if you do have the SNU to use their built-in swaddle system as well during that newborn time period. Now, when to start thinking about other types of swaddles and transitioning out of the swaddle. So again, the Moro reflex starts to diminish or decrease at close to around 12 weeks of age. Now, if some babies do tend to roll very early, it's the rare case that they would roll before 12 weeks, but some babies do. If that was the case, you would want to wean out of the swaddle earlier. But if you're getting close to that 12-week mark and your baby is still in the swaddle, you're going to want to start thinking about transitioning out of the swaddle. So some people ask, well, why would I want to transition out of the swaddle if my baby is not yet rolling? Well, a couple of reasons. One is that often babies will actually roll for the first time or do other developmental milestones for the first time during sleep. And so we know that they have the potentials to start rolling at that age range, or getting closer to the 4-month range. And so you're going to want to help or assist them to be able to get there, practice those skills both during the day and night. Other aspects you want to keep into play of why to transition out of the swaddle at around that 12-week mark or so is that I usually recommend trying your best to transition out of the swaddle before that 4-month sleep regression. And why is that? Well, during the 4-month sleep regression, you already have so much other change happening, right? They're going from just going right into that REM sleep to now going into those later stages of sleep as they go through that 4-month sleep regression or the sleep change. And so if we can kind of separate those changes, then you're not dealing with as many changes all happening at the same time. So that can be really helpful to wean out of the swaddle before they're going into the 4-month sleep regression. Also, when you think about that regression, part of it is that they're more likely to wake. And so if you're already used to being on the swaddle, then the startle reflex is not going to be waking you as much either. So that can definitely be helpful. If baby's not rolling, some people do safely keep them in the swaddle a little bit longer, but for sure, if they are rolling, we need to transition out. So let's talk about what transition sleep sacks or different types of transitional tools can be helpful when you're ready to wean out of the swaddle. So first I want to say that there's no evidence for or against what is called the Merlin sleep suit. Some people really do love it. There's really no evidence that we truly need a transitional tool to go from the swaddle to not being swaddled. So this is something you can talk it over with your pediatrician, see what the recommendations are. But just as far as safe sleep evidence and what types of research is out there, we really don't have a lot of information on that. The biggest thing is if your baby should be rolling, if they're rolling, you don't want anything inhibiting them practicing those skills. And so the Merlin sleep suit would potentially prevent them from being able to roll. And if they can roll, we don't want to prevent those skills. We want them to be able to master them. So keep that in mind. Other things is you always want to think about temperature because that is a safe sleep marker. You really want to make sure the baby's temperature is good. And a lot of babies can get very warm in the sleep suits. So keep that in mind. Always be checking baby's temperature, check the back of their neck to see if they're clammy or what their temperature is when they're sleeping. Other types of things, so when you are transitioning out of the standard swaddle that is being wrapped over, it can be really helpful to be able to do two different things. This one is a halo. This you can have it wrapped when baby is swaddled, and then when they are no longer needing to be swaddled, their arms would be out, okay? And then you can still wrap around their chest. So you want to still keep it relatively snug, just how it was, but now the arms are free. So again, this can kind of prevent or cause them to be more comfortable, not startling quite as much if they still have a tiny bit of that startle reflex, but their arms are now free, so they can roll actively around during sleep. And they also have access to their hands, okay? Because one type of self-soothing is for baby to have access to be able to suck on their hand, move to different positions once they're rolling. So it's really helpful to have their arms free so they're practicing those skills. So different types of things you can do when you're transitioning out of the swaddle is start with just one sleep time. So starting with a nap that is really good. Oftentimes the first nap of the day is going to be your strongest nap, your most consistent nap. So start there. Start with them being unswaddled during that first nap time. And then as they improve and as they get better, then you can take it away for all sleep times. So those are types of things to do when you are transitioning out of a standard swaddle to the arms free. So practicing during nap times, making sure you have something that still has something around the chest to kind of keep them feeling a little bit secure, but not too tight. There's also no evidence for any types of weighted blankets or any types of weighted sleep sacks. They just haven't been studied, and so we don't know what the safety truly is. So you don't want to have anything that is weighted in a sleep sack or swaddle, okay? Now, as babies start to get older and older, and they no longer need a swaddle, but you do want them to be in something to keep them warm, then you can get something like this that is a full sleep sack, but the legs are nice and open. So this is a TLB sleep suit. That's really nice material. I do have a link available on my Instagram link page and on my affiliates link if you're interested in learning more about that. But this again is nice when baby no longer needs the swaddle or sleep sack for truly sleeping, but does need it for warmth and won't really keep a blanket or a quilt or anything like that on. So again, kind of feet free during that time. So that can be really helpful for toddlers and preschoolers. So those are the main things to look at. Again, kind of looking at timing when baby is using the swaddle, when you're weaning out of the swaddle, and all the different types of tools that you need as babies are growing. So hope that was helpful. Please check in for more tips on child, toddler, and school age sleep, and hope you guys have a great day. Bye.